He's a consensus All-American at Notre Dame. Bobby Taylor with his former NFL star, Longview High School. Go Lobos on 365 Sports. Good afternoon. Always going to call you a young man. How you been, buddy?
I'm good. How you all doing? I feel like we're a family. We've been knowing each other for so long.
Yeah, we have. I knew you when you were an ankle biter, I think, and all the way up through your great career and now as a businessman. So what's it like to have Notre Dame where they are, because it has been a while since they were really, truly in this position?
But it feels phenomenal. You know, I think they did a great job. I was talking to one of my good friends because I was actually at the playoff game because, you know, that was the first time a December game in South Bend. So it was a pretty big deal. So I made sure I was able to get back to campus. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to any other games at home this year. I did go to the Texas A&M game to start the season off, but just to be on campus, to see how electric it was, I felt like we kicked off the CFP playoff bracket. But I mean, it feels great. I mean, I feel like Brian, I feel like Coach Kelly did us a favor by jumping down to LSU. You know, no shot at him. You know, I don't have any ill will toward him, but it was, I think, a blessing in disguise. Marcus was already on the staff at the time, and so, you know, I was happy that the administration made the move, and it's definitely paid off so far. And just to experience that, to see the excitement, you know, we have our fingers crossed. Hopefully a good game on Thursday against Penn State. It's been a long time since we played that, you know, great program, a lot of history. I can remember games that I played against Penn State back in South Bend. So, you know, I think it's just a good time right now. I mean, we're excited. We like our chances. Another thing I noticed during the game last week against Georgia, you know, we were just as big as Georgia. We were just as fast or even faster than the Bulldogs. And, you know, we were very physical as well. And so when we can play that type of football, it puts you in a better position to be successful. The SEC, you know, they've been running things over the last 10 to 15 years when you think about the college football landscape. And so that was a huge victory for us. But, you know, hopefully the guys have put that behind them, and looking forward to Thursday's game. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Do you see parallels between the vibe around the team that you did when you were there under Lou Holtz, where there was a intimidation factor with Notre Dame back when you played there, and I think that for the large part, even though they've had some good teams, was not there anymore. But man, I do not want to line up across from these dudes. They absolutely do not care about your physical well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that starts with the big guys up front, offensively and defensively. And they play nasty. They get dirty. And, you know, they're up in guys' faces. They're challenging each other. I was able to listen to a couple of the pregame speeches, specifically the offensive line, and just hearing, you know, how passionate they were. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that they said, but it made me get goosebumps. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when you think about some of the teams I was fortunate enough to play with. And, you know, I think we've been able to build a team that can travel, that can play against Big Ten teams, that can play against SEC teams. And so I like our chances moving forward.
You know, you mentioned that you maybe, I don't know if you said for the first time in a while, but that they were just as physical looking, like guys get off the bus as good as Georgia. And that's with the SEC, of course. Their linemen, especially their defensive linemen, they're just like unbelievable players, and that's why they've won so many national titles too. But yeah, I mean, what was that like for you? Is that like kind of just a cool feeling that, my God, we're back where we should be?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, listen, the eye test means something. I mean, on every level of football. And so when your guys look like the guys or you're even bigger than the guys that are on the other sideline, I mean, sometimes that doesn't necessarily win the game for you, but it definitely puts you in the right mindset. And we definitely have the skill guys as well. I mean, some of our guys can just go probably right to the track on and run track. And so that means a lot. I mean, a lot of times some people may think that that doesn't mean anything. BS. That means a whole lot, especially when you can pass the eye test.
Bobby Taylor, former Notre Dame consensus All-American, with us on 365 Sports.
I know that he hasn't been able to play much because of his injury, but Benjamin Morrison, he's kind of a Bobby Taylor type, big, long, tall cornerback, not one of these little guys. Get up in your grill. What do you think about him?
Oh, I mean, I think he's a first round pick. It's unfortunate that he hadn't been able to be out there on the field, but that just shows the depth of our team in general. And so, I'm looking forward to all those guys playing. We've been able to win a lot of the turnover battles in each game, and so we can continue to do that in Thursday's game. I like our chances again.
All right, you brought up that opening game when they hammered Indiana and made them like it. And Indiana, and in the end, it was not like a 46-3, but it might as well have been. And you played there, you had been there, you were recruited there. How would you compare that atmosphere to back when you were trying to decide where you were going to go to college and then playing there?
You know what? That's a great question, and you probably won't believe this, but like prior to so playing all three sports in high school, I think that prepared me for what I was in store for when I went to Notre Dame. But prior to my visit, which wasn't during football season, like a lot of kids are able to visit during the season, I never went to a Notre Dame game prior to any of that. So I didn't experience it. But what I do know is that the atmosphere is just so electric, and it was almost like, I guess, being in high school again when that first time you're able to really go to a pep rally, that first time you're able to not even play in a varsity football game, but just watch it from the stands as a freshman. And so I had all of those feelings, and a lot of the guys that I was around, we had that same feeling. And actually what we did, one of my good friends who lives in South Bend, we stay in constant contact with our former coach Lou Holtz, and we were able to call Coach. So we had a pregame party before the game. So we were able to call Coach Holtz, and it was probably about 20 or 30 people in the room. We put it up on the screen, and he just kind of gave us some words of wisdom, almost like giving us a pep rally to go to be the best fans that we could be, to help the young men out there be successful in the game. And so just being able to experience like all of that, it just reminds you of how special college football is.
Bobby, there are 4 teams left. They're all blue bloods: Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, and of course, Ohio State. In the end, that's the way it always is. There are, though, and Craig brought this up while we were coming on with you, it was neat to see teams get their first opportunity, whether it's Boise State. Arizona State had a team back in the late 90s with Jake Plummer, and even back before then. But to give them a chance, what would that, you think, be like for schools now that otherwise don't get that eye test? They are never going to win that eye test, but they get a chance to win it all.
I mean, I love it. And you know what? I'm not sure if those institutions won't ever have the same eye test, because, when you think about all of the new rules, NIL, a lot of these schools, they have, deep pockets when you think about some of the donors that have come from some of these, fine institutions all over the country. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that, those teams won't ever have some of the bigger players, the faster players, as, some of these blue bloods that you just spoke about. But just to be able to see those teams play. I mean, they a lot of those teams. I followed SMU. I followed Boise as well, especially with the running back. I think he's definitely a pro and will have a great professional career whenever he decides. But I loved it. And I think, a lot of the people that are the naysayers that are having some of the complaints, I mean, if it was another way, they probably would have some complaints as well. But, I think the CFP did a great job with some of the teams that they put in, and then obviously some of the teams that they left out. I mean, that happens. And so, I mean, for example, just think about Georgia. Georgia, they were left out last year. But one of the things I will say about Georgia, even though we beat them this past week, I liked how being left out last year and then going to the bowl game, and I forgot they played, was it Florida State or somebody, and the way that they showed up, that just let me know a lot about the culture there at the university. I have a lot of my peers, that went to the University of Georgia, and we were going back and forth all last week. But I mean, I like the state of college football right now. I read an article, I don't know if it was over the weekend, where the NCAA is thinking about adding a 5th year of eligibility. And I think that would be great as well, because, the college football is probably the best football outside of Texas high school football that you can probably ever experience, in my opinion.
Bobby, Riley Leonard is one of my favorite players to watch. When you are, and look, I don't know what his professional future is. I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't tell you that. But what I do know is that if I was any one of those other guys on the team and I watched a guy playing out there like that, it would fire me up. What are your thoughts on him and the way that his style of play just has that team just at any moment just so ready to go for whatever happens next?
Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, that one play where he scrambled out to the left and he just threw his body up in the air and, got that first down for us. I mean, I just love to see a leader, someone that hadn't even been on campus probably 12 months, to take on the role that he's been able to take on, especially coming into a program like the University of Notre Dame, playing quarterback there. It's almost like being, a quarterback, on the NFL level, as far as the scrutiny and exposure that you afforded. And so I think he's totally embraced it. And another thing I like about him is, he's a multiple sport athlete. I mean, I saw some footage where he was throwing down 360 dunks and all of those types of things on the basketball court. And so he's definitely an athlete, and I like what he brought to the table. I know that there were some, things about what he only had, 90 yards passing or something like that. Listen, we got the victory. That's the only thing that mattered. When we needed him to make some big plays, and I know if I'm an opposing team's defensive coordinator, I'm definitely putting a star on him to say, hey, this guy can beat you. You better respect him. Look at this film. And so I'm happy that he's a part of and being on our team right now.
One more thing, Bobby, we appreciate it. We mentioned what it was like to be a part of it and where they are now. How frustrating have these last 30 years been?
It's been very frustrating because, I feel like we had 2 legitimate chances there when I was there. The 3 years that I was on campus, to really win a national championship. I can remember we beat Florida State one year, when they had Charlie Ward as a quarterback. He won the Heisman. Then the following week, we lost to Boston College and didn't get a chance to play those guys in a rematch. But it's been very frustrating just because I know how much that place has meant to me and how special it's been as part of, my growth, not only on the field as a football player, but off the field as well. And I'm also just happy that, folks from around the country is getting to see a part of the Notre Dame culture. I feel like it's a, special place on and off the field.
Bobby, the best high school athlete I ever covered. In all 44 years I've been doing it, and there's no question. There's some that were good at all the various sports, but no one played it at the level you did when you were at Longview High School, and then, of course, what you did in college in the NFL, and as a businessman, too. So it's great to see your face, man. You haven't aged at all. You're-
Thank you, thank you. You know, I've always loved and respect you, Smokey. I mean, you're an institution not only in our state of Texas, but probably all over the country. Just the passion you showed for so many years, and like I said earlier, I feel like we're family. We've been knowing each other. And when I saw you calling, and I was actually on the call early, I'm like,
Yep.
oh, I wish I could answer at the time, but I couldn't. But anytime you want to invite me on, feel free. I love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Last time I saw you was in Tampa at the Super Bowl, I think it
Yep,
was, during
yep.
the COVID year. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Bobby. As always, you do great at everything, and that's awesome in many ways. Bobby Taylor, former Notre Dame All-American, consensus All-American on the Irish, and back in the spotlight in the semifinals Thursday against Penn State.